Biology Part 91. Gain and loss of heat. To keep body temperature within survival limits, organism must achieve an overall balance between heat gain and heat loss. Heat is generated in body tissues as a result of respiration and other exergonic reactions. This is called thermogenesis and is the main source of heat for endotherms. The rate of heat production is called metabolic rate of the organisms. Heat can be lost or gained through the surface layers of the body in several ways. Number 1, radiation. Thermal radiation is the process whereby energy in the form of electromagnetic radiation of infrared wavelength is emitted by a heated surface and travels off in all directions. The amount of energy emitted or absorbed depends upon the temperature of the surface and other characteristics like color and texture. A dark color surface gains and loses radiant heat quickly, while a light color surface absorbs and emits heat slowly. Air absorbs very little thermal radiation and is a minor obstacle to heat transfer between the objects. Endotherms absorb radiated solar energy either directly by basking behavior or indirectly from the rocks and other objects. Some lizards can change their skin color by means of pigmented cells or chromatophores. These are extended to produce a dark colored surface early in the morning and contracted to give a lighter color later in the day. Endotherms typically lose heat by radiation. For example, in normal condition, about 60% of a person's overall heat loss occurs in this way. Number 2, conduction. Conduction of heat energy occurs between objects which are in direct contact. Air is a poor thermal conductor, but water is an excellent thermal conductor, so the transfer by conduction is most important method of heat exchange for aquatic organisms. Many terrestrial organisms increase their heat loss in extreme conditions by wallowing in water. Conduction can be an important method of heat exchange for terrestrial ectotherms through contact with the soil, but conductive losses from terrestrial endotherms are usually small. Number 3, convection. Convection occurs when a current of air or water flows over the surface of the body. Air warmed by the body of a terrestrial organism rises and is constantly replaced by cooler air. Fur, feathers, clothing trap and layer of still air next to the body so that in endotherms convection is often a minor method of heat. Number 4, evaporation. It is impossible for an organism to gain heat by evaporation, but it is an important method of heat loss in most terrestrial organisms. The change of state from liquid to vapor requires an input of energy called latent heat of vaporization. When water evaporates from body surface, the necessary energy is absorbed from the body tissues. The latent heat varies with the temperature of the skin, but at 30 degrees Celsius, 2.45 kilojoules is taken for each 1 cubic centimeter of water evaporated, producing a significant cooling effect. Both ectotherms and endotherms tend to restrict water loss to a minimum, but both can increase heat loss by evaporation. For example, by panting in extreme conditions, a person's evaporative heat loss normally accounts for 35 to 40% of the total, but this can increase dramatically in hot conditions. The body of an organism can be thought of as consisting of 2 parts: a central thermal core in which heat is generated and stored, and another thermal shell consisting of the skin, and superficial tissues. The degree of heat loss or gain through the shell depends upon its nature and thickness, and also upon the organism's surface area to the volume ratio. Small organisms have a greater surface area relative to their volume than the larger organisms, therefore exchange heat much more rapidly with their surroundings. In endotherms, the changes in the characteristics of the thermal shell will which increase or decrease heat loss. The most important organ temperature control in the mammals is the skin.